everyone, welcome to another episode of the Bearded Men of Real Estate Show. I'm Ray. This is Dan. Say hi, Dan.
Hi, Dan.
And we are two bearded realtors, which make us the ideal host for a show called The Bearded Men of Real Estate. If you are watching live, we broadcast live every Wednesday around 12 o'clock. We won't be on next week because of Christmas, but we broadcast most Wednesdays at 12 o'clock Central. That's Dan o'clock. That's 10 o'clock Dan time.
Yeah.
Also Dan o'clock. Let's see what we got. Mountain time. That's Lindsay. She's in Mountain time. That's 11 o'clock. And then on the East Coast, which is Marley time.
And then we got and Melissa time. And then we got
one.
We got whatever Arizona does. They don't.
As if on cue, Marley Presswood says, "Hi, Dan."
Hi, Dan.
She said, "Hi, Dan."
She said it for me.
If you are joining us live, just like that, you can comment live, and we can display your comment and talk about you, or we can talk about your comment. So we appreciate the comments and the discussion. Usually end up in a rousing discussion about some of these topics, which we would definitely be today.
And guess what?
What's that?
So you mentioned we're going to take next week off. I know you guys are bummed, but we're coming back on the 30th.
The 30th.
With our predictions show. So I'm going to go back through and watch the entire show. I'll write everyone's predictions down, and we have some great guests. One may have already commented on the show first.
It's a post-Christmas spectacular. Can that be a thing?
No, we're going to call it the post-Christmas pre-New Year's prediction show spectacular.
Extravaganza
variety show.
Marley is actually going to be on the show. She's been doing a lot of stats and facts in her area, so she's going to be on the show. We're going to talk about what's happening on the East Coast. We also have Clayton Fernando Estrems, who's going to be on the show. We have Lindsay. She's going to be on the show. Dan's going to be on the show. And those guests right there cover every single time zone in the United States.
Wait, did we say Tim?
He's kind of extra. I mean, he's some extra. I was just. We love giving Tim a hard time. Thanks for joining the show. Melissa Mara says mail time. That's right. It's also mail time. Ryan is checking in from YouTube, which you can also watch us on YouTube. If you're catching this show as the replay on YouTube, just look in the comments. We're going to have a breakdown of the articles that we cover and what we talk about. You can click on that timestamp and go straight over to where we cover that.
Dude,
Matthew Clinton checking in, who did an awesome job on today's thumbnail.
So good. If you guys haven't seen it, you need to check out the thumbnail.
And I have to say, he came up with a theme all by himself, because I told him, I was like, look, we're talking about a bunch of people moving to Texas today. And he was like, how about we do this movie? So I'm not going to give it away. You got to go look at the thumbnail.
And by the way, for the first time ever, before we get to Princess comment, we have the same amount of comments from YouTube as we do on Facebook to start.
That's right. To start. Yeah, we are there. 3 and 3 at the moment.
Baby steps, man. Baby steps.
We really want more people to be watching on YouTube, just so you know. And I mean, Zuckerberg could hear me, but it would be our joy to one day not broadcast as much on Facebook and be more on the YouTube. Yes. Prince Taylor said, "Hi, I'm a realtor and wholesaler in New York. I'm noticing a lot of people are trying to sell their house for sale by owner, but as far as wholesale deals, I'm having a hard time finding them." So you're a realtor and a wholesaler. That's interesting. In our area, it's really hard to be a wholesaler and a realtor. You kind of have to be one or the other over here. So you're finding a hard time finding the wholesale deals because more people are wanting to sell super high price. So I guess you are alluding, Prince, to the fact that maybe people are moving back into the city, which we are going to cover on today's show.
Maybe there's a story on that.
And Prince, I would love for you to stick around for the CoStar versus Zillow fight. I don't know if you use the Street Easy app or if your customers do, but CoStar may be working on something to have a consumer-facing MLS there. So I'd love your opinion on that too. Howard Hover Broadsley says, "Hi, gents. He is Israel is in the house."
He's the one that makes us world famous.
That's
right there.
Yeah, him and Massimo. I haven't seen Massimo in a while.
He's busy, dude. He's posting new property videos every 30 seconds.
That's true. Everyone tag Massimo. Pete said, "I'm driving 10 miles per hour in snow. People cannot drive." Oh, okay.
That's true all across the land.
All across the lane. We had a little dusting of snow here today. Well, thanks everyone for joining us. If you haven't shared the show, please do share the show. We like to get as many people on the show as possible so that we can have that rousing discussion. There you go, Eric. He says Fort Worth, Texas in the house, aka the city with diminishing inventory. I think everywhere. I mean, a lot of people have the diminishing inventory, but specifically Texas. We are going to talk about a lot of people moving to the state of Texas and why. So I'd love to get your feedback on that, Ryan, too. He's in the Texas area. That's a huge state.
Yeah, and we did the Texas area. So America.
Yeah, he said 2 feet. I'm looking at the beach.
By the way, I ran some numbers just on that diminishing inventory, just cities around me, and it's like 4 listings active, 6 listings, 2 listings. Like there's just not a lot of actives anywhere. Took 2 new listings last night, and no competition. There's not one active within a mile of their home.
Wow, those are going to go quick. Well, yeah. I mean, one of the things we're going to talk about today also is the historic low mortgage rates. I think that's the first bit of news. And we're going to talk about commercial. What's going on in commercial? I'd like to get a mini prediction for you guys, from you guys, to hear what you think is going to happen in the commercial, specifically the office sector. That's kind of up in the air. And from all reports, they're wondering how much office they're going to actually need in a post-pandy world.
Yeah, and this prediction that's coming, I don't know if I agree with it.
I don't know. Yeah, I don't know. We'll have to wait and see. Dan, before we get into all those incredible news stories and take this feedback from the incredible people that are commenting, especially those on the YouTube,
I love it.
Would you tell us what this show is all about?
You know what, I'd love to. Now, when Ray and I met, it's 4 years ago. 4 years ago here on the interwebs, I had an idea for a show because I am, in fact, a beautifully bearded. This is self-love week. I'm going big on the self-love. So I'm a beautifully bearded man. I love everything about myself, even my flaws, right. Because I am, in fact, a bearded man. But when I met Ray, I noticed something very interesting about him.
What was that, Dan?
He actually knows a lot about trees.
I do, actually. So when I was in high school,
I usually make up a thing, but he actually knows a lot about trees.
Yeah, this is weird. When I was in high school, I had a biology teacher that made us do we had to pick 200 trees, and we had to get this Trees of Arkansas book, and we had to put the stem, the bark, a leaf, all on a page, identify the tree using our Trees of Arkansas book, and then tell a little bit of information about that. So yes, I actually do know a weird amount about it. I was walking through a yard with a client the other day, and he was like, "I've never seen a tree like this. What is this?" I was like, "Well, that's a willow oak." And he looked at me. He was like, "What?"
Yeah.
I said, "Well, most people think it's a pin oak because of the shape of the leaves, but actually, that's a willow oak." And we actually looked it up because he didn't believe me. But yep.
Yeah. So not that he only likes. Knows a lot about trees, has a great beard. But what I also notice is that he loves to give value up front to not only his clients, but to humans in general. So the show's about being better as a human, but also being better as an agent.
That's right. And one of the things
I said that backwards. Being better as an agent, but also being better as a human. There you go.
That's right. And one of the reasons why we love to give value up front, we want people to know what's going on. I mean, we see all these headlines every day, and I basically shake my head. And as Dan and I were talking before we ever created the show, like, hey, man, have you seen this? Hey, is this going on? Look at this. Is this happening in your area? We're just kind of shaking our heads So that sounds very foreign. We're just shaking our heads because we were looking at these news stories, and it wasn't happening like the news stories were saying. They were taking bits and pieces of the truth. And so we said, we're talking about this. We should make a show that actually tells the average Joe exactly what's going on. So we're going to dive deep into some of those headlines and below.
And on that note, I wanted to go off on a little rant. And I warned Ray that I was going to do this, but I didn't tell him what about.
That's true.
But I actually have. So there's 2 things today. And one is, well, it's not a surprise, but it's just, I found an article to be very, very just sad and depressing. So I was like, I'm going to look for other stats. I'm going to find actual stats on this. So I have literally a contrary article written, but basically at the same time, that contradicts everything that the first one says. And also I shared with our contributors. If you're not a contributor, we do have a little page called BMORE Contributors with an exclamation point. I shared it in our little messenger group. just an agent. I don't know who he is. I've never heard of him, but he's got 8,000 views on this video. And it says essentially, you're going to go bankrupt if you invest in real estate in 2021.
Oh my gosh.
I'm honestly getting really tired of it. You got to stop. I mean, whatever with the regular, mainstream media doing the gotcha headlines and all that crap, whatever. I don't care about that. I don't watch that. But with real estate in particular, this is our job. This is our livelihood. And with Susie Orman making the big, bold prediction that she did 5-6 months ago, I mean, that thing was crazy, literally a crazy prediction.
And very wrong. It turns
out.
That
got thousands and thousands of likes and comments and shares, and people took that as truth because they trust her. And then this agent had like 8,000 views. That's pretty good for a real estate video, someone I've never heard of, and we're here trying to break these things down, and we get, modest amount of views. I won't say numbers because I don't want to offend anyone, but I'm just kidding.
And a big reason of this because you're not sensationalists. We're just going to look at the information, kind of
we're
tell
just
you
not.
The truth. And it doesn't really lend itself to like thousands of views because we're not talking about the housing market burning down. We actually do reference it, but then we kind of tell you the real deal and what's it's all
about. So it's just frustrating. And then we see more and more agents doing this stuff, and it just feels like they're desperate for views, desperate for business, and it's just got to stop. It has to stop because these are people's homes that you're messing with. And if one of these articles or videos gains traction, guess what? That's going to influence some, chunk of the economy or chunk of, the country. And it's got to stop. It has to stop. It's absolutely ridiculous. And, we've maintained, and Ray said that in the breakdown of the show, since day one, we've gone past the headlines and we break it down for the layman, for the, maybe what do these numbers actually mean? What is this headline actually saying? And how many times? I mean, we've done 30 shows now?
128 is today.
128. Literally every week, more than once a week, we read the article and we're like, oh my gosh, everything's down. Oh, but it's up 200% for the year. I mean, It's just, it has to stop. It's really pissing me off if you can't tell, because this is, I take this job very seriously, and I know Ray does too, and all of the people watching, and it's time to stop. It's ridiculous. Stop being sensational to get views for your stupid real estate videos. Just stop.
Yeah. Used to, it wasn't good business to be sensational. If you became sensational, people were like, I don't want to use that guy. But now
I don't know. So anyway, I'm frustrated, but moving on.
I do want you guys to stay tuned. I have a really cool look at the prediction for 2021 coming out on my YouTube channel. We're going to talk about how the United States is going to burn to the ground. So stay tuned for that.
Yeah, check out my new video about losing all your money in real estate. But
that's right. Adam Johnson says down for the commercial market. Curtis, commercial is bad news. Buy and turn into housing, life, environment complex.
Ooh, that's interesting. Remember, we had that kind of more lively vibe story we did about a month ago that they're doing with us. So I think that's a great prediction.
All right, you ready to get in the headlines?
Absolutely.
Let's do it.
All right, I'm good now. I'm still mad, but I'm better. Everything. Once I do that, I'm good, man. I'm good.
All right. So the first article that we are going to talk about: refinance demand jumps 105% annually as mortgage rates set 15th historic low. So this article comes to us from CNBC. Based on a report by the Mortgage Bankers Association. Mortgage rates see 15th historic low, and refinance blast off 105% annually. We didn't see a huge uptick in the number of mortgage applications over last week, as the total volume of mortgage applications only went up 1.1% for both refis and purchases. However, for refis, that is 105% over last year, and applications to purchase were up 2% week over week and are still 26% higher annually. That's such a huge jump. Like I remember we've been doing the show 3 years. I remember reporting like 6% increase going, wow, what a cool increase.
Yeah. 26%, 105%. That's doubling.
Crazy. So normally December is not a super strong month for some home sales, but demand continues to surge, most likely due to a bit of the delay post Pandy, right? Applications to buy a home increased. I learned that from Christina M. Smallhorn. I was on her show as a guest, and she says Pandy, so she didn't get censored. So
I like it.
Applications to buy a home increased for the fourth time in 5 weeks, as both conventional and government segments of the market saw gains, said Kahn. This is Joel Kahn. So they've been misspelling his name. I don't know if it's on purpose, but maybe he's changed his name spelling. I got to look this up.
I thought it was always K-A-N.
It was K-A-H-N for the longest.
Oh, yeah. It was.
I don't know what's going on. We're going to look that up. All right. Government purchase applications rose for the 5th straight week to the highest level since June, perhaps a sign that more first-time home buyers are entering the market. And that's interesting because we've been talking about the glut of supply in the first-time home buyer market, which is the lower 1/3 of the market. So it's interesting to see that there has been some uptick in that potential housing, probably due to the builders building.
Builders are building.
And pipers are piping.
Pipers are piping.
That does sound like a Christmas thing. So I'd love to hear from you, real estate agents, since you're watching the show. Have you seen any kind of uptick in your buyers? I was talking to a real estate agent earlier this morning, and he was talking about how difficult it was for him to service his buyers just because they couldn't find the properties. And in his mind, he was thinking, surely there's fewer buyers that are able to find stuff in the market right now. But all roads point to no, that there are more buyers actually in the market right now making mortgage applications, which will probably lead to more sales. I don't know. What do you
there just has to be more inventory coming up, but yeah, I mean, I'm offering on a property that's written, and we're going to submit that after the show today. That's they have no other offers, but it's a $1.25 million property. So that's in the luxury area. And also, by the way, that loan 2.75%.
Wow. That's crazy.
That's really crazy. But yeah, no offers there, threats of offers. But I noticed that when I go up above 800, it's a lot slower. So
yeah,
I think they consider luxury.
It starts to slow down.
Yeah, it's usually we don't have much to compete with. You know, there's lots of showings, but then the offers don't necessarily come in. So that's kind of what I'm seeing. But I tried to have a break in buyers over the last month and a half, and then about a month ago, I just kind of got a bunch that, hey, we're ready to go. I'm like, it's Thanksgiving.
Yeah.
And interest rates are that crazy. And, you know, so I saw a flood come back in.
Adam Johnson says, just because you have a mortgage application doesn't mean you're actually getting the deal done. That's true.
Right.
But if you don't have the mortgage
fun number to track.
If you don't have the mortgage applications, you're definitely not.
Right.
It sounds like there's more buyers that are prepped. It's like pulling the ball back on a pinball machine, right?
Right.
And as soon as the inventory loosens up, it's going to be let it go. And then that's what a lot of people are predicting. Like last week on the show, we talked about the Redfin CEO predicting a huge housing boom. And that was part of the reason why the additional inventory that they predicted would hit the market post Pandy.
Well, and then remember too, we track or we report contracts signed.
Yep.
Number of accepted offers sold.
Right.
We kind of so mortgage application is kind of the first step in all that to track what's gonna happen.
You get the Rona.
I got the drinking too much water, quote unquote water. You guys never ever know what's in that cup of mine. You never know.
That's true.
I'll go on to the next one. So new home application. So here it is right off the bat. Ready? So the title of this is from Housing Wire, which they don't usually do the sensationalist thing. But new home applications drop in November. Oh, man. So I literally pulled from 2 different articles. So usually when we report a drop, it's 5, 6, 20%, whatever. But year over year, it's 100% higher, right? So this one's from Housing Wire. New home purchase in November 2020 increased 34.7% from a year ago. But new home applications decreased from October, according to the Mortgage Bankers Association's builder application survey. New home applications decreased 16% from October, said Joel Kahn. He's the MBA Associate Vice President of Economic and Industry Forecasting. This is a quote from him. November new home sales activity, both mortgage applications and home sales ran at a pace considerably ahead of 2019, showing the ongoing strong growth in the housing demand of new residential construction. Signs of a slowdown in the economic recovery likely contributed to the expected monthly decrease in activity. So it's all, the whole article is kind of decrease, less, slowing, less activity. So then I just did a quick search and I found Mortgage Professional America, and it's literally mpamag.com. So I guess that's Mortgage Professional America mag.com. Not something I've ever pulled from. I don't know how reputable they are, but they have they just have a different take on it. Now, their article starts with the volume of mortgage applications observed this year continues to grow at a rate that outpaces 2019, according to data released by the same MBA that was in the other article, right? And it says, despite a 16% month-over-month decline, applications for new home purchases were 34% higher in November than the year prior. And then they have the same exact quote. So just from those two articles, you can tell the different tone, right? Yeah. But Housing Wire, there you go. I put the link in there. But Housing Wire, who gets a lot more traction and gets a lot more views, I'm assuming, they're just putting this kind of negative tone on everything. So it was just interesting to me to see literally two articles that were posted hours apart, using the exact same numbers from the Mortgage Bankers Association, the same index, and the same exact quote from Joel Kahn. Just the kind of spin they put on it. Like, why can't they just report the numbers and let us do our own spin? You know what I mean?
Yeah. That is really interesting contrast, because you could see it. I mean, we talk about it and we see it all the time. But it is interesting to me to see that contrast on two different articles, just like back to back.
Yeah. I just did a quick search. It's like, this doesn't seem so bad to me. Yeah. Let me go check this out. Because it was down. And then I even found one article that says things are up a little bit. So it's just, you got to really look, for the consumers out there, you got to really look into those numbers and really read your own articles, and hopefully your estate agent that's helping you with these things is doing the same, and they can guide you through this, or maybe you're looking through it together, but you really got to, don't just go by the one article you read if it's so super negative or super positive. It's just, you got to get past those headlines.
So speaking of, wait, hang on. We got some comments here. Melissa Marr said, is it snowing? It's just talking to Pete. I'm safe.
Yeah, it is snowing.
We are very concerned, Pete. Thank you. This is back on the previous topic. Adam Johnson said, I have many buyers prepped. Nothing in the market in my area. Last year, in December, one county, 450 active listings. This year, 150.
Wow, that's a third.
You got to use some old school stuff to find them. All right, so I'm gonna stop here. We'll take a quick break. We're going to talk about the mystery of Joel Kahn. While Dan was covering that awesome story, I was doing a bit of research, and what I found might surprise you. So this is an article from 2019 on Forbes, and if you look at the article, let's bring it up here. We can search words Joel Kahn, Kahn, MBA's Associate Vice President of Economic Industry Forecasting. So I searched Joel Kahn and MBA in the Google, spelled Kahn, and I found a ton of references. And you remember there was a story a couple of weeks ago, Dan, that they had a longer title for him. And I said, oh, it sounds like Joel Kahn got a promotion. And
right.
Him spell his name right, because he had
a different dude.
Kahn. Well, so there is on LinkedIn a different guy that I think what happened is you had a reporter that was like, you know what? I just need to Google this real quick and find out how to spell this guy's name. I'm not totally sure.
Yeah.
And so they did that, and they found this guy's LinkedIn profile, and they said, that's got to be him. He's a commercial lending officer at Wall Street Mortgage. It's got the word mortgage in it. Joel Kahn, lending. Yeah. That's got to be him. Well, I can tell you this, Dan. They were sorely mistaken.
That's not him.
So then you're like, well, what's an authority? A Zoom Info that has info on everyone. Let's check Zoom Info. See what Zoom Info says. Joel Kahn, head of Economic and Industry, Mortgage Bankers Association.
Yeah.
So surely that's correct, right? But one place you could definitely go to find company information on an individual is right to that company or organization. And if you did that, you would know that this is Joel Kahn, K-A-N. This is the Vice President of Economic and Industry Forecasting. So we have solved the riddle of Kahn. There's no more mystery. He said, Howard said, Kahn is a form of Cohen. Kahn is normally not. Well, this is actually Kahn, K-A-N.
K-A-N. And I'm still doing the Kahn thing, by the way. I'm still doing that.
Yeah, K-A-N is correct. For everyone wondering, whenever we report this and put it in our stories, or if we put it out there, and you're like, why are they spelling his name wrong now? We are not. That's the correct way to spell.
Man, we are just breaking boundaries today. Wow.
Pete Thorpe said, what more can you do?
Oh, geez.
There we go.
I'm here for the Pete, but I stay for the jokes.
Where would we be without our Peter? All right. So let's talk about some commercial.
This one's interesting to me. Just the headline. I haven't read the article yet, but just the headline is interesting to me.
Okay, so CBRE CEO says he expects at least an 80% of office occupancy to return post-pandy. So that means 80% of what we currently have built would return. So they're below that currently.
That's a lot. That's a big number, don't you think?
That's a big number to have missing, in my opinion. I was kind of surprised that he's like, 80% will come back. That means that they don't have 80% currently. Do they have above 20% vacancy? What's going on here? Okay, so what's happening with offices these days? And I kind of want to know from everyone watching, are you in an office? Are you out of an office? Are you out of the office because you work for a brokerage that you've never gone into the office for? Or maybe they just have small offices, kind of like ours. We just have a little place for kind of some group meetings and stuff. Otherwise, it's kind of a work from wherever you want environment. Or are you out of the office directly related to the Rona? And your office is shut down, not returning, or they have restrictions, or maybe your city, state, government has restrictions. So what is your current status? And what do you think will happen? Do you think more and more people will go back to work? Dan, there was a discussion we had about 2.5 years ago where I think it was Yahoo CEO came in and she said, okay, everybody can work from home. And they worked from home for a while. And then they said, okay, everybody's productivity stinks. Y'all come back in the office. And they all came back in the office. And at the very beginning of this pandemic, or the very beginning of the pandy, we talked about how we kind of related to that story and said people are going to go back. They're going to be working from home. And everyone's going to feel like everything's fine. We're able to do a lot of work. Then as capacity increases, when people start to get used to the Rona, their old buying habits come back and all that stuff, and we start to move as an economy again, the ability for people to produce, most likely from home, the same that they would do at work, wasn't going to be equal. And most of the time, most of the companies would want to fill their offices with the people because the higher productivity levels. So that was our prediction.
Yeah.
Or that was my prediction. What do you think, Dan?
Well, so I think this has gone on longer than we expected, or I don't know how I should say that, but we're here. We're 9 months into this, 10 months into this. So now companies are having to, it's not let's just send them and work for a home for a couple months and see what happens. If productivity goes down, we'll fix it. Now they're here. I mean, we're going to go into a year into this thing where people are going to have to work from home in a lot of cases. They're going to have to fix the productivity. So to me, there's two parts to this. Is they're going to have to come up with new, goals or standards for if you work at home, you have to, be on. And I do have a friend who works from home, and she always has. She didn't change because of the Rona, but they have to be on camera or essentially on your computer, and it tracks how long she's on her computer. You have to be on during the times you're supposed to be working. So she has to be there. So I think they're going to add some of that, but also what about those companies that are kind of like, dude, productivity is still great, and I don't have to pay for this way overly priced office space.
We're seeing a lot of that in the Silicon Valley area where people are jettisoning themselves out of Silicon and they're going somewhere, which you will get to in another story.
So, and then the next thing is, where does that, now I don't know if these companies are going to offer, but that those electricity bills and those energy bills are now on the homeowners and the people working at home, not on the, you know what I'm saying? So I think there's a lot of benefits to, if, with the caveat, if they can get the same productivity, to just letting people stay home. And I think there's a lot more of that being realized right now. The same buyer I mentioned a few moments ago, they're moving from Arizona to here, and he's already started a new job, and we're looking for the house. He already virtually started the new job. And he's like, it was really weird. I didn't go meet anyone. I didn't go say hi to any new people. I just started a new job.
So Melissa said she's in the office currently. Eric said had 3 offices, now 1.
Well, Melissa's those pretty small, I think. I think it's only her and Curtis, and then maybe the boss man.
Howard said half and half due to the Rona. I prefer limiting my time there. He said High Tech Israel is talking about maybe mid next year they will continue to work from home. New home searches are with an extra home office room. Yeah, and we talked about last week some of the tiny homes becoming people's offices in the backyard.
Yeah. I had a client at one of my listing appointments last night. One of the clients brought up, can you help me find a tiny home? I said, yeah.
Yeah. Eric Daniels said, businesses have to plan now. Businesses have to plan and now have the warm fuzzy that people will actually produce from home. I say it will be less people returning to work.
Okay. Yeah. See, I think they figured out the less productivity thing. I think we're past all that.
I don't know. Howard said, my 2 kids work from home and are providing full service to their employers. Melissa said, no, there are more than there. Adam Johnson said, our virtual office space is expanding.
Those other people just aren't worth mentioning, I guess. Just Curtis and the boss man.
Pete says, I worked corporate America too long, but what happens is they add more bodies and then people to fill the time to make X number of widgets. When needed, they make XX widgets, which is where their top producers show up, then get disgruntled, making the same as X performers, and then they leave. By the end of the day, people are lazy and we'll do the bare minimum. Ryan says we have plans for 3 offices in 2020, 2021, cut back to 3 for now. Oh, they had plans for 6 offices and they cut to 3. I see it now.
Yeah.
So, okay. So we'll get into kind of what this article says now, but I just kind of wanted to gauge where you guys were. I still think the work at home thing is a factor. So what we're saying is, hey, people moved home and they're able to do as much work as they were at the office. That's okay. But by now, a year in from where they were last year, shouldn't they be able to do more work or more efficiently? And so maybe it set them back a little bit. But generally, you want your employees to produce more. You want them to grow. You want their capacity to be able to take on more, to grow. So I'm curious as to the growth and capacity and if that actually happens. Because if it doesn't happen, I see most of the employees returning to an office.
They would have to get that productivity back. But 80% returning.
80%, I think is possible and likely. All right, let's get into the article. Okay, so the CEO of CBRE was on an interview with CNBC. That's a lot of C's. Here's what he said. He said, quote, you'll see a hybrid scenario. Lots of returning to the office. We think 80% plus of that occupancy, if not more, will come back. His name's Bob Sulentic. There will be more remote working flex space. There will be more working from home. There will be creative things happening to use the office space, which is what Adam Johnson was talking about in one of our commenters. He said, that's for certain. No one really knows how much square footage will be needed for the quote office space. That's one of the big questions in the post-outbreak world. But everyone in the industry seems to have all eyes on the VAC. That's the shot that you take that prevents you from getting the thing that I'm not going to say because I don't want to be depressed by Facebook. And its effectiveness. So everyone's kind of keeping their eyes on that and the effectiveness. Many think that office spaces will move to more suburban areas out of the most dense part of the cities. So that was an interesting thing that came up in their discussion in another article. I'm kind of combining two articles from CNBC, but they were talking about how a lot of the suburban areas where people are moving out to anyway. In an article last week, we talked about that. We should kind of link up these articles in an annotation there. But we talked about how, everyone was saying, oh, people are going to run away from New York or run away from this populated, dense city or run away from that. But really, they were just kind of moving a little bit on the outskirts of the city. They weren't changing states. They weren't even changing cities. So what this is saying is that as those folks move into the suburban areas, that some of the lighter office stuff is going to move out there with them. I could definitely see that happening. To where you have kind of like everything you need in a small part of the city. I spent some time in Bangkok, and you could like in just one little part by the college, and there was this little eatery, and there was the mall, and you could walk to everything that you needed right there and to where you were staying. Like you didn't have to go a block to get anything that you needed in the entire world. It was all right there.
Yeah.
And I could see as we become more densely populated, things like that starting to happen where you could just kind of get everything you want right there. But you still have your yard with 0.25 acres and you still have a neighborhood that you're in. But once you get outside of that neighborhood, that's kind of everything that everyone in that bedroom, used to be a bedroom community, needed, is now moving closer to them.
Well, and we've covered on the show a little bit about live workspaces, just kind of being more, going back to the one comment, the warm and fuzzy, more just the little community feel, because I don't know. I think at some point, now this is just a crazy off the top of my head thing, but at some point, like we've gotten away from the little mom and pop shops and the little downtowns, the little main streets, and I think there's a nostalgia coming back right now because so many people are suffering with their businesses and shutdowns and stuff. So I think people are really pushing to support small right now. So imagine if they could just have that little, and I don't mean because necessarily build it in their community, but move to that. Imagine if they could live, work, shop, everything right there, and they're their own little community. If you watch the Dave Letterman show, My Next Guest Needs No Introduction, he had Dave Chappelle on, and they literally walked. It's Dave Chappelle, one of the biggest stars in the world, very known, and he walked through this little town that he lives in, and just everyone's like, "Hey, Dave," and he took all of his everything back there and has a farm just outside, on the outskirts, just to take that business home. I think there's going to be a lot more of that. And by the way, I do want to ask the question, do you think what is he, the CEO?
Yeah.
He's the president of and CEO. Do you think he has anything to gain by making positive spins on, he happens to be the CEO of a commercial brokerage.
Yeah. Well, so a lot of people ask me that too, right? Because if I'm running a brokerage, don't I have something to gain by talking positively about housing? Well, yeah, but technically there's positives every which way you look, right? So if a whole bunch of people are, prices are up and you're selling, you're making more money off the sale of your home. There's a ton of inventory and there's so much for the buyers to choose from. So yes, you could talk positively about either side of the market. So I don't think he's trying to be nefarious in talking positively about what they think is going to come back. But no. I think he could make a prediction based on what he thinks. I actually think it's going to be higher. But it is unrelated
than 80%.
Yeah. It's unrelated for me. It's unrelated to the pandy. It's unrelated to where people are living. For me, it is totally related to productivity, which is
production, right?
Yeah, and that's such a American thing to look at. But Pete brings up a good point. He said it goes back to widgets. Companies need to define how many widgets. If it takes Ray 3 hours to make 20 widgets, but Melissa 8 hours. Wow, Melissa, you're kind of slow. To make those same widgets, do you force Ray to work 5 more hours? So in an office environment, yeah, that's what would happen.
I know, but that's the thing though, is if they each have the same quota, Ray's at home making those same amount of widgets at home in those 3 hours.
Yeah. And then I'm just going hanging out for the rest of the day because I've done my work. Or maybe I
know, but his quota was good.
Right.
He hit his quota. Now he's off mountain biking in the backwoods of Arkansas.
Which is better for life, right?
Right.
But is that where capitalist society America would go to? Capitalist society of America would say, no, Ray has a, depends on if you're hourly or salary or whatever, but let's just say Ray has a contract to work 8 hours a day and he's only putting in 3 hours. His production is incredible in those 3 hours, but man, look at the opportunity costs. Look at what we're wasting by paying him so much. for just, going mountain biking in the afternoon. If we could incentivize Ray, then we could get even more production out of him in the same amount of time as Melissa. And unfortunately, maybe we'll have to let her go.
But what if those incentives are work 3 hours a day, get everything we need done because we want to have 50 Rays instead of 20 Melissas. I know Melissa's being dragged through the mud here, and she's not that slow. We all know that.
She said, "I'm not that slow," is what she said.
But this is the example that Pete set. So this is technically Pete's fault. But why wouldn't you just get more Rays? And by the way, part of that incentive is, dude, then you get to homeschool your kids and go on hikes and enjoy your city, and you're done with work. That's part of the incentive to me, especially now when a lot of us feel so depressed and so we got to stay home. We got to stay. We have to live in these little bubbles, but you can still go outside and enjoy the fresh air on your own. You know what I mean?
Yeah. I don't know. I think it's a better work-life balance type of situation, but I mean, I think most people with some drive would figure out a way to add value to the marketplace to get paid more money so they could do more stuff.
100%. But then that's their choice though. Not, like Pete says, Ray would just slow down and drag his feet, drag 3 hours into 8. Then they have workers doing that too. And then that's less productivity, but they can't paying him for 8 hours.
And they can't really monitor that if the person's working from home. They can't monitor it well. Melissa Mara said, "Why me?" And Howard said, "Oh,
I know.
That's cute."
Yeah, you got a job in Israel, but I thought it would be me. It's usually Ray, and then Dan. Dan's always the dumb one, but I'm good with it. So I'm a little bit relieved that it went. The brunt went on someone else there.
Pete with a huge fallacy said, "Because you don't have to pay more for Rays." Oh, yes, you do, and it's impossible to get rid of underperforming Melissa once they're in the company/union.
Well, when you have performance reviews, then you just move on from them after a couple low ones.
Yeah, today is an interesting day. We get to find your new workplace. All right, Dan, you would take us to the next one?
Yeah, so this one's kind of interesting to me, and I have a bigger question after the whole thing. But Forbes launches a luxury home listing marketplace. First of all, this seems like a no-brainer to me, right?
Yeah.
Like Forbes has been, whenever you hear the word Forbes, what do you think? Oh, those people have money. Like
also, if you ever look at the real estate section of their website, it's all about who sold what and who bought what. Like we don't report on much Forbes news because it's this star bought this place for $49 million. It's like, okay.
But every now and then they'll have luxury is up or whatever. But so this is a new invitation only home listing platform that hit the web last week. Forbes launched a luxury home listing platform, which the company says will capitalize on its audience and quote unquote, connect, inform, and inspire high net worth potential homebuyers and sellers about properties for sale around the world. Forbes Global Properties will be led by Jeff Highland, president and co-founder of the luxury listing site Hilton and Highland, and Bonnie Stone Sellers, great real estate name. She's the former CEO of Christie's International Real Estate, who will also serve as chair. Forbes Global Properties is owned and run by brokerages. That's the interesting part. Owned and run by brokerages.
Yeah.
Okay. So I want to come back to that. I put a little note. Interesting. With a Forbes ownership, little slip of the tongue there. Forbes ownership stake. This is a quote. Who is this from? This is from Jeff Highland himself. Forbes Global Properties creates a new and unparalleled sphere of influence in the world's finest real estate. Unlike other branded real estate groups, Forbes Global Properties is not merely a listing tool for agents. It offers direct and measurable access to potential high net worth buyers through Forbes' worldwide media penetration. So that's it's a two-part question. Going back to the owned and run by brokerages, right? And then access to these properties. Is it going to be their own MLS? What is it going to be? That's kind of my big question there.
Invitation only. And if it's owned and run by other brokerages, I wonder if once you get the invite as a brokerage, you have to buy in. And
wait.
Ownership.
Is invitation only a violation of Fair Housing Act?
Not if it's an invite to purchase, and only those who purchase and own a portion of ownership can be a member.
And you have to be a pre-qualified purchaser because it's going to be obviously high-end properties, right?
2 million and up is what it said, right? So I can probably count on one hand how many $2 million properties are in our area.
One.
Actually, you'll be surprised. If there is a $2 million property in our area, I can tell you this. It's pretty amazing. It's like a island or city.
It's a city.
Let's see what a $2 million. Okay. Actually 337 properties, but that includes Northwest Arkansas and Central Arkansas.
That's a big net.
That is, yeah. But I mean, that's still, yeah, that's pretty cool.
I guess still another reason I'm taking my money to Arkansas.
A lot of farms, a lot of big plots of land, and then some that look like castles. I mean, this is amazing. 15,000 square foot homes.
How much? $2 million?
Yeah, 15,000 square feet. Here's one with 12,500 square feet. Yeah, 2 million will get you a lot in Arkansas.
Nice.
So, so there is some. I mean, there's more than I thought. But I don't know how many of those would be applicable on Forbes or how you get the invite to appear there, because that's the entire market. You know,
right? And then how, like, if someone in that luxury market, 2 million and up, is part of this Forbes, what if Arkansas is not part of this thing because they don't have any brokerages that are part of it? So that's what I mean. Are they
would though? Because wouldn't they want to boast that they covered the entire U.S.?
Right, but if one of these brokerage, because it's brokerage owned, if they're not part of this Forbes thing, then how are these buyers seeing these properties when they could just go to an estate agent in Arkansas and see these properties? Do you know what I'm saying?
A rigorous vetting process, they said. Founding member brokerages are established leaders in respective local luxury markets and have offices in 75 locations around the U.S., Asia, Europe. Forbes Global Properties will accept them over the next few months after conducting a rigorous vetting process.
Rigorous.
Yeah. So who knows what that'll include. That is interesting, though. I guess you could say it's a high-end competitor to Zillow.
Yeah, exactly. And then, well, that's that second part to my question is it, are they going to have their own website? Are they going to have their own MLS where
I'm sure
do they pull from MLSs and then put it on their website and stay away from Zillow? Like, what does that all entail?
I'm sure it's a listing portal. I mean, they're just niching up listing portals, which might be a good idea. You know, Zillow kind of covers everything. It's like the Walmart of listing portals. But if you can niche and say, we're just, we're the Tiffany's of listing portal. And then someone else is like, well, we're the Target of listing portals. We only show you those houses from 250 to 450,000. Yeah, it's not a bad idea.
I'm looking, remember when we covered the pocket listing service, the PLS.com.
Yeah.
We missed a story because I'm just looking it up because they were higher end brokers starting their own MLS. And there's a story from May that we missed. Los Angeles real estate firm sues realtors over pocket listing website.
Yeah, we covered that.
Oh, we did. Okay.
Yeah. We covered the lawsuit, but it's the PLS. So is it off? Is it on yet? Is it
dude. So I went to thepls.com.
Yeah.
32 days, 21 hours, 31 minutes, and 52 seconds until the relaunch. So something happened.
Relaunch.
It's literally just a website. The PLS is relaunching soon. We've been hard at work at developing an entirely new platform, including never ever seen before tools for agents to connect with buyers and sellers.
Okay.
Oh, that is interesting.
Huh. All right, there's a little side story for you, a little side chop. Something we'll definitely check out. Everyone set your calendar for the 32 days and 21 hours.
Yeah, what a weird time to launch. That's just like what, the mid weird day in January?
What day is 32 days and 21 hours from today? Let's see. That's true. What day is 32 days from today?
It's Sunday, January 17th, 2021.
Okay.
Why are they launching on Sunday?
January 17th. I think it's actually on a Monday because the plus, if you add the 21 hours, right?
Right. So then you get some money. So they're going to launch on January 18th, I guess.
That would, January 18th at 9 o'clock Central.
Weird.
Okay. Stay tuned, everyone.
Side note. By the way, you ever want to see into the minds of Ray and I? You just saw it. We'll go down rabbit holes for days, man. All right.
Used to be what happened in our private conversations, and now we're just having them publicly. So whatever.
Now we just have a show. All
right. Speaking of Zillow competitors, including the PLS and the luxury listing service from Forbes, CoStar, man, they're putting up them dukes. They are getting after Zillow in more ways than one. Of course, you remember that CoStar bought HomeSnap. What was it, like a couple of weeks ago, I think. And CoStar was previously a kind of a commercial listing group, like a commercial Zillow. They bought HomeSnap, and they're already making inroads into some places where Zillow has failed, actually. So CoStar is going to take out Zillow in New York. They're looking for a fight, and it seems Zillow, the current champ, doesn't even see those punches coming. The next spot's New York City. So let's review. Or we already done the review. So REBNY, Real Estate Board of New York. I think that's something like that. They're gonna partner with them to develop a portal that creates a direct rival to Street Easy, which is basically Zillow for New York City, and Zillow owned. This was originally reported in The Real Deal, but no one is confirming the details at the time. So this is kind of breaking news. The residential listing service, the RLS, does not currently syndicate to Street Easy, but agents and brokerages input them directly or have a deal with them to automatically feed from the brokerage feed. The RLS does not feed. It does feed. So the residential listing service does feed to Realtor.com and Homes.com and RentHop.
But not to Zillow.
But not to Zillow. So
that's
now
the right jab right there.
They have CoStar coming and saying, hey, let's make a consumer-facing listing portal. And CoStar has traditionally been very friendly to real estate agents, kind of like what Zillow used to be a long time ago.
Before they started trying to take our jobs.
That's right. So it looks like you might have a mass exodus if CoStar makes it big from Zillow to CoStar, which could be very interesting because if the real estate agents go there, Zillow would then have to make an extreme consumer shift, which they've already started doing their own brokerages. They say that they're not going to shift towards commercial or towards consumer, but that added competition should lower the Zillow Flex program that takes like 20 to 30% of what you make. It's in back to Zillow after you close. It should lower the monthly cost of Zillow because anytime serious competition enters the market, then that's the calculations that we have to start to make on our ROI.
Return on investment.
That's right. And if you could give $1 to CoStar and get $4 or $5 back, or you could give $1 to Zillow and get $3 back, then you're going to give $1 to CoStar every time. But
and less competition and all that.
They have a long road to haul to get there, but they're trying to get there very quickly, it seems. So, and this is why I tagged Jay in our post, by the way, Jay Glazer, that was on our show previously talking about the jettison from New York and what was really going on. He's probably a great resource that knows exactly what's happening there, but I'd love to get his feedback on it too if he watches the replay. All right. Speaking of people moving from one place to another, that's a pretty bad.
And if you've gone and looked at the thumbnail, this story is, kind of why we did it.
This is the thumbnail. Maybe I should I should display the thumbnail.
Can you?
For the viewers? Yeah, let me bring it up real quick and I can display. I got to stop screen sharing, then start screen sharing, then do a application window. There it is. Bam. 1 million ways to buy in the West. Oh my gosh. So this is great work. If you've ever seen the movie 1 Million Ways to Die in the West, then that is what the thumbnail comes from.
Yeah.
Of course,
Seth MacFarlane.
Of course, on that they're holding a sheep, and Dan is holding a hippo.
Stuffed hippo, yes.
6-shooter, but I only had a Glock, so that's it is what it is. That's what we had to use.
Hey, we work with what we can here. When you're not sensationalists like we are, we bring hippos and Glocks.
Hippos and Glocks. That sounds like a band name or something. Hippos and Glocks.
Yeah. This is our new song. You're going to rock out to it. It's called Hippos and Glocks.
Yes. All right. So let's talk about everybody going to Texas.
By the way, check out that comment by Melissa there. She's predicting the future of the show right there.
What's that? Where?
Rent is cheap. Where?
I hear rent is cheap in NYC now. We'll get onto this.
But before, guess what the Texas governor has said? He says that companies are moving their headquarters to the state, and that the number of those companies is a tidal wave. So it's happening a lot. We kind of mentioned it. I don't think there was a story necessarily about it, but we kind of mentioned it on the show a week or two ago. Elon Musk has personally not moved his business there. So he does have new factories being built, but he has personally moved to Texas. So he's out of California. He's moved to Texas.
And also Joe Rogan. Joe's gone. He moved from LA to Texas as well.
Yeah, I call him Roe Jogan, by the way. But anyway, Texas Governor Greg Abbott, he told CNBC on Friday that the number of companies deciding to move their headquarters to the Lone Star State has accelerated due in part to the Rona. Ray says, Pandy, I say Rona. The governor's comments, by the way, in the article, it says the Republican governor's comments. I'm like, why is that even? Why? He's a governor. Why does it have to be?
They always do that. Anytime there's a Republican that says anything, they be sure to say it. But usually they'll just say governor or representative, and you have to go look up and find, oh, that's a Democrat. That's
right.
Seriously,
no, I see the Democrat side too. It's just funny to me. But maybe because it's California going to Texas, I don't know. The story's not only about that, but that's he gets into that. So the governor's comments came shortly after it was reported that software giant Oracle is moving its corporate center from Redwood City, California, in Silicon Valley to Austin, Texas, which is also a pretty blue city. Let's see. Hewlett Packard Enterprise also said earlier this month it is moving its headquarters to Houston from San Jose, California. Earlier this fall, real estate giant CBRE, previously noted on the show, officially shifted its HQ from Los Angeles to Dallas. And this is going back to a quote from the governor himself, Greg Abbott. I have been on the phone on a weekly basis with CEOs across the country. And it's not just California, Abbott said. Yeah, that was on Fast Money, referencing his meeting last month with officials from the NASDAQ. He goes on to say, we're working across the board because the times of the Rona have exposed a lot. They've exposed that you really don't have to be in Manhattan, for example, in order to be involved in the trading business or in the investment business. Interesting that he mentions Manhattan specifically. But in addition to the Rona demonstrating the feasibility of more widespread remote work, Abbott said there are other characteristics attracting companies to Texas. And this is a quote from him again. Cost of business means a lot. No income tax means a lot. But also the freedom to operate without the heavy hand of regulation means a lot. So this is kind of like, you remember, geez, that's a funny
1 week since you looked at me.
Yeah, sorry. It's been I don't know when this was. I don't have a time frame. I don't know how it is in my brain, but there was, I don't know, 10, 15 years ago, a lot of companies or a lot of movie studios, they weren't shooting in LA anymore. They were shooting in Toronto. And then a lot of it moved to Georgia. Remember that?
Yeah.
Like a lot of things. So it's kind of like that. It's not necessarily a mass exodus, but there's a lot of it. And there's a big chunk happening. And then the article doesn't go on to mention Musk, who personally moved there, and then he has factories for both Tesla and SpaceX being built there.
Eric Daniels says they quote unquote cite business-friendly environment and wonderful tax situation with the no state income tax compares quite favorable to California with the highest in the nation at 13.3%.
Does.
Walking Dead, that was filmed in Georgia.
Yeah, it's crazy though. Like, I get that they're shooting there; it's cheaper to shoot there, but there's zombies there. Like, how would you want to live in Georgia? There's zombies.
True.
So I think that's affecting their real estate market, I would guess, and jobs and all that stuff. Zombies, you know what I mean?
Interesting. Melissa says, plus does it Tyler Perry have a huge studio in Georgia too?
Yeah.
Interesting. It does seem like Hollywood's starting to spread out a little bit instead of be located in one.
I love living here. I don't have a big company to move or whatever. I love living here, so I'm good with it.
You are big company, my friend.
In person.
Did you hear about that one guy from Texas that was moving out to California? There was just one guy. He actually stopped at a small town in California, and he was like, "Hey, I'm headed to San Jose. Can I get directions?" And the guy in California was like, "No, man, it's not San Jose. It's San Jose." He was like, "Oh, okay. Well, after that, I'll go to San Jose, and then I'm going to go to San Juan." And the guy in California was like, "No, man, where are you from?" The guy's like, "I'm from Texas." He's like, "No, around here, we say J's like H's. But how long are you going to go?" And he said, "Well, I'll probably stick around till Hoon or Hula."
If y'all didn't sense the joke coming.
It's so good. I love that joke. You're welcome, everyone. There's your joke for Christmas.
There's your Christmas joke. Can we go back to okay? I mean, I don't know if there's much more on that story. It's interesting. It'll be interesting to see, not just California, but all the other epicenters of technology and stuff, who's going to move their headquarters. Remember, it just says headquarters. It doesn't necessarily say factories. It says headquarters, which is also kind of cool because when you move a headquarter there, what does that do? That creates new jobs. So is that going to add to the commercial real estate, or are people going to work remotely, still live in California, but headquarters is in Tejas?
Why would you leave your headquarters? I mean, there's no reason to leave a headquarters in California. You can have workers work from anywhere, right? But
right.
There's definitely not a reason to leave.
Unless it's a physical factory that they have to go to where you have to build, X number of widgets daily.
Yeah. Other than that, like, wouldn't you headquarter out of anywhere else you could with a low tax rate?
Yeah, you would go where cost effective is. And then hopefully they take those savings and pass them on to their employees and not to their CEOs.
Yeah, right. Clayton Fernandez Shrimp says, who would leave Texas for Cali? That's why it was a joke, my friend.
Just the guy that doesn't know how to say J.
No, I actually really like California. I really like California. I follow several Californians on the Instagram, a lot of agents in California. And Michelle Calkins is up there in North California. And I'm always amazed at photos of that because it was like 70 degrees in Arkansas and she's in California experiencing. Like, that's such like a different, you it goes, right? You forget how north California is.
Yeah, she's in the mountains too, so she gets seasons. But it's cool. I mean, she's literally
I'm experiencing a delay.
Yeah, I was sensing that, but I think you're back now.
That's weird. Okay, well, I'm going to go into this next story. Renters are returning to Manhattan. Speaking of new news, and this kind of goes back to what Melissa Morrow was talking about. 30% gain in new leases in November. This is a huge gain. So as we continue to update you on the New York real estate scene, which it kind of seems like we have the last couple of weeks, we've been talking about.
Well, it's been really interesting though. Like, we having Jay on, and because there was a mass exodus from New York, he was like, no, that's not the thing. So this is kind of a full circle thing. But a lot of times California real estate dictates what the rest of the country is going to do. This has been interesting to watch New York because, it's I don't know, it's just an epicenter. A lot of people obviously work there, and there's just with the Rona happening, people want to get out, and now renters coming back. I think this has kind of come full circle. It's pretty crazy.
Yeah. So as we continue to update you on the New York real estate scene, renters are also returning to Manhattan after a record drop in rental prices. According to a report by Miller Samuel and Douglas Elliman, 4,000 new leases were signed, making November one of the strongest Novembers in 12 years. The median rent price is now $2,743, with most landlords offering more than 2 months of free rent. That's a great deal. Lower prices. This is a quote from the CEO of Miller Samuel, Jonathan Miller. He said, lower prices have created this trigger for inbound migration. That's one of the early signs of market potentially improving. Most agree that it will likely take years for New York to fully recover. There are even reports that many buildings are only listing a small portion of the rentals available, with fear of creating too much supply, further depressing the rental prices. There is an anecdotal story in there. There's a quote from Jana Raskop. They're the leading rental broker at Douglas Edelman. And they say, what clients are telling me is that they're tired of the suburbs and they're missing the city. They say they miss being able to walk to a grocery store or coffee shop, not rely on a car. Which is interesting because if you were here for our earlier report, we talked about some of the big office buildings maybe moving into suburbs, creating light office space, and then you could start to walk to a small grocery store from your office and then back into your neighborhood and all that jazz. So
then everything you need for life is within a walk.
Yep. What's it going to look like in 50 years? Are even like the towns in Texas going to have these small little, like you don't need anything. You could kind of be in 1 or 2 square miles of your entire neighborhood and have everything you want, just like the big city of New York? or will we all go more densely populated and start to build up on top of each other again? I don't know. I don't know.
Interesting for sure. You want to move on to the next one because American homeowners are rich. Do you not know how much?
This is what I've heard. Well, we've been talking about American homeowners having over $2 trillion in equity wrapped up into their homes. So I'm anxious to see if this article says something different or updates those numbers. So we'll see. That's the number we've been using since last year. Americans have had $2 trillion in their homes.
Yeah. So homeowners are $1 trillion richer thanks to the Rona-driven housing boom. So this one
does this mean that they now have 3 million or 3 trillion in equity around the US?
Yeah. Does it add $1 trillion, or when did they start tracking the numbers? You know what I mean?
That's my big question.
So this is from CNBC. So as prices rise, home equity multiplies. It's kind of a nice little rhyme to start the article off there. In the past year, homeowners with mortgages representing about 63% of all properties have seen their equity increase by 10%, almost 10.8%, according to CoreLogic. That equates to a collective $1 trillion in gained equity, or an average of $17,000 per homeowner, the largest equity gain in more than 6 years. Homeowners in some states saw greater equity gains than others. States with the hottest home prices saw the biggest gains. In Washington State, homeowners banked an average of $35,000. In California, they gained $34,000. So there's a reason to move to California. If you've owned a home over the last year in California, you've made $35,000.
That's pretty huge.
Yeah, it's a big deal. And that's, by the way, an average. And in Massachusetts, an average of 31 grand. However, homeowners in North Dakota, which was particularly hit hard by the Rona, they saw the lowest annual equity, but still a gain of $5,400. But still a gain, though, even though modest. This is a quote from Frank Nothift. He is the chief economist at CoreLogic. Over the past year, strong home price growth has created a record level of home equity for homeowners. The average family with a home mortgage loan had $194,000 in home equity in the third quarter. That's pretty rad. Like, talk about being able to sell your home, buy another one, and still have a rainy day fund. That's kind of cool. This provides an important buffer to protect families if they experience financial difficulties. And I think this is a very important point that he makes. So it has contributed to historically low foreclosure rates, although part of that is also due to the mortgage forbearance programs put in place at the start of the Rona. Still, it will help those borrowers who are struggling most and may not be able to keep their homes. They can still sell into the market and potentially still make the profit. So to me, that's interesting. That's where, in my opinion, or my prediction would be, it would avoid kind of the foreclosures because you still have equity. You just can't afford the home right now. And they can still sell and then, have the money, have their equity. That what is it, Ray? 194,000 in home equity. Go take that, and then that's what you live off until the economy comes back, and you can get your job back or get a new job or whatever and get more stabilized.
And this I'm going to address in that video I was telling you about at the start of the show, where I'm going to talk about how the United States melts down in historical home failures due to the Rona.
Right.
But that all depends on if we actually shut down again. If we shut down again, then that creates a situation which someone needs to sell, but buyers can't get the money because the banks are probably not going to be as loose with it, not going to give it to them. So there's fewer buyers in the market. So those price gains will go down. The question is, will it go down to suck the equity that everyone's just gained in this last year? I don't know that. If it does,
it has to go 194,000. That's the equity they have on average right now.
That's huge. But if banks aren't giving money out because they don't know what's going to happen, and the job situation gets worse, and we hit the 10 to 20% unemployment figure, that's going to be bad news. There's a cattail right in the middle of So if you recall, we were up to 14.5% unemployment in, what was it, April or something?
When it all started,
whenever everyone got forburned, and then all the layoffs started happening around in companies across the U.S. Now, last time I checked, it was 6 or 4.7, or I mean, sorry, 6.7% unemployment rate, which is only like 0.5% above what they would consider almost full employment. So the jobs number is the number to watch. The shutdown is the thing to watch to know if we are going to have a total destroyed housing market, or if homes are going to be fine and people are going to be able to cash in that equity, do whatever they want, buy a bigger house, go on more vacations, rent a place, whatever.
Well, and by the way, can I ask this question? This far into the Rona, this far into companies having to adjust and have their employees either work in safer conditions at a physical office or factory or work from home, this far into it, don't you think they've made their adjustments? Like, can we predict all of a sudden big numbers in, or that unemployment number to go up again, to spike? Can we really predict that? I don't think so.
I think people are going to have to stay tuned for our show on the 30th to get the full breadth of our predictions, in which Clayton Fernando Stram's going to join us. We're going to have Marley Presswood on the show. Lindsay Emerson is going to be on there, and then
someone else, but I can't remember.
What is that other guy?
Well, Ray and I will be there, and then can you guys comment down below who else is going to be on the show? You guys know.
Tag that other guy.
Tom Ferry is going to be on the show.
No, I wish. Mitt Tacey? Is it Mitt Tacey? I think it's Mitt Tacey.
Mitt Tacey. He's also a quarterback in the NFL.
He's going to join us too. So, and we're going to get into the predictions. We're also going to look up the predictions from last year. And we're talking about who is right, who is wrong, what we predicted, and then get into our predictions coming up. We're going to talk about mortgage rate predictions, home sales predictions. So we have a little bit of research to do between now and then, but I'm super excited about it. It will be our post-Christmas, pre-New Year's prediction special extravaganza.
And variety show.
There you go. And variety show. Howard Everybody said, Tim. Hashtag white boxing dude Tim. That guy. Yes, that guy. He's going to join us.
Tim Macy. Gosh, I just talked to him on the phone the other day. How can I forget his name? So weird.
You don't want to miss the thumbnail. I'm going to say that. If there's one good thing about our show, it's the thumbnails. They may not be the most effective on YouTube, but they're certainly a lot of fun.
Yeah, they don't garner 8,000 views because of a stupid headline and sensationalism. But hey, they're pretty legit.
Yeah. So thanks everybody for joining the show. Thanks for commenting. Dan, could you tell people where they could connect with you if somebody wanted to send you a message?
I want to tell them where they can find us first. We're also a podcast. So go to any source where you love your podcast. You can even go to I can say it because she's off. I keep her off most of the time because, it's a surveillance unit in my house. You can say, Alexa, play the Bearded Men of Real Estate Show podcast. And guess what? She will play the most recent episode anywhere. We are
Alexa, stop. All right, sorry. Go ahead.
So go find us because we always consider ourselves a podcast. Go check us out there. And then always on the YouTubes and all that stuff. But Glocks and Hippos to y'all. If you want to find me, you can find me on Instagram at DLudwigRocks, DLUDWIGROCKS. Ray, where can they find you?
You can find me on the Instas at Ray Zorback, RayZorback. And we definitely have to use that hashtag. I think it's the first time in the world that hashtag has ever been used. Hashtag
Glocks and Hippos.
I would be super impressed if that has ever been used in the past. So thanks everybody for joining the show. And we will see you guys not next week, but the week after, the 30th. So
for the prediction extravaganza. Bye.
Showcase.